Welcome to this new lesson of the course Self-Publishing with GenBookAI. Write and publish your book with AI. We have already covered the incipit, the development of the plot, the narrative tension and the climax, but now we come to the most important moment for the reader's satisfaction, the conclusion of the story. The conclusion of a book is fundamental because it leaves the last impression on the reader. A weak ending can ruin the reading experience, while a strong ending can make the story remembered for years. A study by New York University has shown that readers tend to recommend a book more if the ending was emotionally impactful, regardless of the progress of the previous plot. In this lesson you will learn the fundamental functions of the conclusion of a story, the different types of endings and how to choose the right one for your book, the techniques for writing a satisfying and memorable conclusion, common mistakes to avoid when closing your story. By the end of this lesson, you will be able to write an ending that will leave a lasting impression on the reader, making your book more effective and engaging. The importance of a good conclusion. The conclusion of a story not only serves to close the events, but must also leave the reader satisfied and with a feeling of completeness. It answers open questions and closes the narrative arcs. It shows the evolution of the protagonist and other characters. It can suggest a reflection or a message for the reader. Examples of memorable endings: The Great Gatsby, a melancholic ending that reflects on the American dream. 1984, a disturbing ending that reinforces the dystopian message. The Lord of the Rings, an epic ending that closes the protagonist's journey and leaves room for nostalgia. A good ending makes the story stronger and more meaningful for the reader. Different types of narrative endings. Not all books have to end the same way. There are different types of endings, and the choice depends on the genre and the message of the story. 1. The closed or conclusive ending. All issues are resolved. There are no questions left unanswered. Perfect for thrillers, fantasy, and self-contained novels. Example: the detective solves the case, the murderer is arrested, and everything goes back to normal. Pros: gives the reader a clear and satisfying closure. Cons: if too predictable, it can be obvious. 2. The open ending leaves some questions unanswered, allowing the reader to imagine what will happen next. Perfect for psychological novels, stories with philosophical undertones or that foresee a sequel. Example: a character gets on a train without saying where he is going. Pros: it stimulates reflection and keeps the story alive in the reader's mind. Cons: if too vague, it can be frustrating. 3. The surprise ending. An unexpected twist completely changes the perception of the story. Perfect for thrillers, horror, and novels with elements of suspense. Example: the protagonist discovers that his best friend has always been his real enemy. Pros: it creates a strong emotional impact and leaves the reader surprised. Cons: it must be well constructed to avoid seeming forced. 4. The circular ending. It brings the reader back to the starting point, with an internal change in the protagonist. Perfect for coming-of-age novels and literary fiction. Example: a man goes on a journey to find himself and eventually returns home, but with a new awareness. Pros: gives a sense of symbolic closure and depth to the story. Cons: if not handled well, it can feel repetitive. Techniques for writing a memorable conclusion. 1. Connect the ending to the beginning. Revisit an element from the first chapter to create a perfect closing effect. 2. Show the change of the protagonist. The main character must be different from the beginning of the story. 3. Avoid explaining too much. Let the reader interpret some details without forcing an excessive explanation. 4. Give a final reflection. A good ending leaves the reader with a feeling of completeness and, if possible, with a clear message. Following these techniques guarantees a more effective and memorable conclusion. Common mistakes to avoid in the conclusion. 1. An ending that is too rushed. After a strong climax, the reader needs a little breather to assimilate the story. 2. Leaving too many elements hanging. An open ending is fine, but it still needs to provide some closure to the story. 3. Inserting a forced plot twist. A last-minute plot twist that has no basis in the story can be unsatisfying. 4. Contradicting the theme of the story. An ending that goes against the message or development of the book can leave the reader confused. Avoiding these mistakes helps you write an ending that is coherent and satisfying. Practical exercise. Write 3 possible endings for your story using different techniques: a closed ending, an open ending, a surprise ending. Analyze which one best fits your plot and the message you want to convey. Voiceover. Lesson summary. Today we learned the importance of an effective conclusion and its impact on the reader, the different types of endings and when to use them, the techniques for writing a satisfying and memorable conclusion, the common mistakes to avoid so as not to ruin the ending of the book. After creating your story, building the climax, and developing an effective ending comes one of the most important steps for the quality of your book: the revision. A manuscript is never perfect on the first draft. Every great writer goes through multiple stages of revision to improve narrative coherence, eliminate errors, and make the text more fluent and engaging. A study by the University of Oxford has shown that books that have undergone a thorough revision are significantly more likely to obtain positive reviews and retain readers. In this lesson you will learn the different stages of revision, from structural revision to final editing, how to identify and correct plot problems, inconsistencies, and weak points in the narrative, techniques to refine your writing style and make the text more fluid and professional, digital tools and software useful for revision, the importance of grammatical and lexical revision for an impeccable book, when and how to collaborate with professional editors to improve the text. By the end of the lesson, you will have the skills needed to improve your book and make it ready for publication. Why is proofreading important? A well-written book is not only the result of inspiration, but also of careful revision. Improve the fluidity and coherence of the story. Eliminate grammatical, punctuation, and style errors. Strengthen characters and their motivations. Avoid inconsistencies and plot holes. Example: a character with green eyes at the beginning of the book, who suddenly has brown eyes halfway through the story, is an inconsistency that can be missed in the first draft, but that revision helps to correct. A well-reviewed book has a greater impact on readers and is more competitive in the publishing market. The phases of proofreading. Proofreading a book is divided into several phases. Tackling them methodically allows you to obtain a professional result. 1. Structural review. Check plot consistency. At this stage, you need to make sure that the story has a logical and coherent flow. Structural review checklist. Does the plot have a clear beginning, middle, and end? Are the climax and resolution satisfactory? Are there slow or uninteresting parts that could be cut or rewritten? Are the characters consistent in their behavior and motivations? Helpful tools. Use a plot map to identify any plot holes. Rely on beta readers to get feedback on the overall structure. 2. Stylistic review. Improving the quality of writing. Once you have the structure sorted out, It is time to refine the style and make it easier to read. Things to check for in stylistic review. Is the language clear and accessible? Are there repetitions or redundant sentences? Is the writing engaging and does it hold the reader's attention? Example, original sentence. The old man slowly sat down on the chair. Review. The old man sat down on the chair with a slow movement. Helpful tools, Pro Writing Aid and Hemingway. Editor to identify sentences that are too long or complex. Read the text aloud to perceive any problems with rhythm. 3. Grammatical and spelling review. Eliminate errors and misprints. Even a small grammatical error can make the book lose credibility. Things to check. Correct grammar and syntax. Correct use of punctuation. Eliminate typos and typographical errors. Useful tools. Grammarly and Language Tool for automatic grammar checking. Rely on a professional proofreader for a final check. 4. Final revision. The professional touch. After working on the text, it is time to do a complete reading and evaluate the overall effect. Last aspects to check. Is the pace of the story fluid? Does each chapter have a strong ending? Does the climax and conclusion have the desired impact? Helpful tools. Print your manuscript and read it on paper for a fresh perspective. Have a small group of trusted readers read your book for final feedback. When and how to work with a professional editor. Even the most experienced writers rely on professional editors to improve their books. A professional editor can spot problems that the author might not notice, can offer suggestions for improving narrative cohesion and style. An editor helps make your book ready for the publishing market. When to hire an editor. If you have trouble objectively assessing the quality of your manuscript. If you want expert advice before publishing. Remember, professional revision is an investment that can make the difference in the success of your book. Practical exercise. Follow these steps to revise your book. Reread the text aloud and identify the less fluent parts. Make a list of points to improve in the plot. Use a revision software to check the grammar and style. Share the manuscript with a beta reader or an editor. Analyze the feedback received and make the necessary changes. Lesson summary. Today we learned the importance of revision to improve the manuscript, the phases of revision, structural, stylistic, grammatical, and final, useful tools to correct errors and improve the quality of the text, when and how to collaborate with a professional editor. Thank you for following this lesson. See you next time.